Hello, this is Rama Dedan, aka Rama Chimbugwe. Same name, just, you know, one is my last name, one is my middle name. I just switch it up whenever I feel like, however I feel like introducing myself, I just switch it up. Back with another video. Today I'm giving you guys a story time about how I used to commit fraud. Yeah, I used to commit fraud when I was in the United Kingdom. I lived in the UK from the years 2019 until 2022. And at the time, I was going through some issues in life whereby I just felt like, when you're young and you're just trying to keep up with your friends, you're trying to be like them, you're trying to spend like them. I used to go to school with some rich kids, and I just felt like I just never quite fit in because I never had the money to fit in. And I felt like to make up for it, I had to, get on some schemes. And I was rolling with, I had an acquaintance of mine. He was a friend of a friend, but we became like he used to fuck with me and I used to fuck with him. His name was Hax, and you know, one time he was a UK citizen. And I wasn't from there, and I didn't quite understand that when you're not from a certain place, there's certain like actions or moves that you don't take, or certain ways of doing things that you're not supposed to engage in, or certain activities that you're not supposed to engage in. Because, like, as an international student, you're really in the wrong place, doing like street activities. Because, first of all, you're at risk of like your entire education. You're risking your entire education. You're risking going to jail, committing crimes like these, doing fraud. But, people from there, they're more acquitted to like those kinds of like behaviors and engagements. But that was something I didn't understand. And I was just trying to be like my friends from back home in Africa who were like from rich families. And I was trying so hard to fit in, and I decided to go and do fraud. I decided to go do fraud. So basically this guy Hacks, his full name is Hakeem, he told me that he knew ways which I can like make quick money. And the way he brought it up was like he told me it's nothing. He told me everything is legal, which was a lie. But that's how these scammers will approach you when they're trying to convince you. They'll tell you a lot of things just to get you bought over, into the idea. And he told me it was all fully legal. He told me it was the words that we used were quite funny because he said there was longevity in the scheme, meaning that the scheme can persist for a long time and I'll be making bread off of it. And he told me it was quick money, it was easy. He told me it was no risk. That's what he said, no risk. And I was asking these questions, and he told me it was no risk, but it was all a lie. And basically, that day I didn't. The first time he brought it up, I dismissed it. I said I wasn't interested. And then he brought it up a second time. And when he brought it up the second time, I was like, I was in need of money. I was trying to sustain a lifestyle for myself that, at this point in time, I had a weed habit. I used to want to go out. I used to want to get new clothes and shit like that. I used to want to get like brands. Like, yeah, I was just trying to like lost in the world. I was just lost in the world, just trying to fit in and be like everyone else. And I thought this was a good way to sustain myself, to sustain my living, my desired lifestyle that I wanted. And the way, when he brought it up to me, he told me that I would make up to like 3K, that I would make some thousands from it. And the funny thing is, I never actually saw those thousands. And one thing I regret about getting involved in this activity is that at the time I was not cut out for it. And I probably still aren't. I probably still am not cut out for it. But, you know, I just was naive. I was just like, I didn't know how to, I didn't know how to like claim. I didn't know how to claim things, because when you're a scammer, you have to be able to like claim money, even if it's like you're stealing from them. You have to claim that money as if it's yours, but it's not really yours. And that's how scammers operate. They feel like they're entitled. They have that entitlement that I just didn't have. I didn't have that entitlement. I was just used to like if I was told no, I would like, I would back off, and that was how most times it was when you have to go to the bank and get money from the bank. And I initially struggled with that because what it was Hacks was the middle guy, and there was another guy we were involved with, whose name I'm not gonna disclose right now, but let's just call him CW for now. And CW was basically running the scams. He was basically the one who was like, cracking the cards, because that's what I was doing. We used to crack cards, and basically at that time I didn't even have a bank account when I was in the United Kingdom. Like during those times, I had just moved into the UK. It was COVID time, and I hadn't yet opened a bank account. My parents used to send me money on Western Union, you know, and basically when we were running these scams, he would be the one to crack the cards. He basically had me open up a lot of bank accounts, and I remember the first thing that we did was that I needed to open up a bank account, but I didn't have like the necessary documents. So we forged documents, and I remember that was the first like you know fraudulent activity that I did, was to forge those documents that we used to get the bank account. And we successfully got a few bank accounts running. And I don't know why, till this day, I don't know why, but this guy had me open like so many bank accounts. This guy had me open up like 12 bank accounts. We opened up bank accounts for like four different banks. And with those bank accounts, he opened up like saving accounts. He opened up like so many different types of accounts, to the point that at the end I had like 12 accounts. And I just don't know why he needed so many accounts, but these guys would take money from me, and I wasn't cut out for it. I wasn't cut out for it because I was struggling, man. Because they would have me like go through these procedures where I have to call the bank all the time, and they would be with me, and like they would put me on pressure, and like they would have me say things to like the bank while they're talking to me on the phone, and they'll be telling me what to say while I'm on the phone with them. They'll be telling me what to say while I'm on the phone with them, and I wouldn't get it right, and sometimes they would send me to the bank, and like they would send me off. They wouldn't give me the money, and they would be like, why didn't you assert yourself? Why didn't you like claim the money? Like I said, you have to have that kind of entitlement, which I didn't have at the time. And basically, what I regret about this decision was that it was probably one of the choices that I made that altered the course of my life for the worst. And after that, some things started happening, and I got in trouble with the law. And ever since then, I've had run-ins with the law, and it's just been a bad case for me. It's just been a whole lot of bad run-ins for me ever since that time. But I'm just going and further tell the story about like, I used to fuck up with these guys, and you know, because of that, they wouldn't pay me well, and this guy would basically be taking thousands from my account. So I remember one time I looked at my invoice, because I looked at my statement, because they would try and get me to like get other people to like recruit other people into their fraud scheme. And I used to try and get my friends into it, and I would show my friends my bank balance, and they would be like, you know um how come they're taking all this money from you, but they're giving you only very little? Because the first time that I did this fraud activity, like I got like $200, you know and I think we did it a total of about 3 or 4 times. And all of those 3 or 4 times, each time I only got like 200, 200, 200. I never got a lot of money. And these guys would basically like fuck me over. And like there was a point that I got my account blocked. I got my account locked. And that was when it was a bank called NatWest Bank in the UK. If you're from the UK, you know that bank called NatWest. And I had created that account by myself. It was the one account that I created by myself, and I gave him my login details. And when I created this bank account, you know, I gave it to him, and for some reason he got it locked, and he expected me to go to the bank and, get the money as usual. But we had a script that we had practiced that day, because they knew that I wasn't very good at like, talking, and like, those kinds of situations where I had to like persuade people, to get things. So they were running me through like some kind of like script. And when I went into the bank, the whole teller went off script and didn't even ask me none of the questions. That he didn't follow the questions, you know, the script that I had practiced, and that threw me off. And basically, when I went and reported back to these guys, I told them what had happened, and basically they asked me if I responded the way I was supposed to respond, and I didn't. I told them I didn't respond, but the reason I didn't respond was I went off script. But because I was panicking and I was just like, you know, feeling bad in the moment, they took it out on me, and you know, these same guys decided to get me to like pay them back, and they had me continue to do like these tasks for them, open up accounts for them and open up different accounts for them, you know, and keep taking money out of them so that they could, you know, I had when the bank account got locked, my banks got blocked, and they flagged me in all banks, and basically all the money that was in there got locked away, and they said that I owed them, and they had me do like these tasks for them continuously, whereby I had to like get the money back for them. And yeah, it was basically just a whole shit experience for me, and I wouldn't advise anyone else out there to get involved in fraudulent activity, because it can put a stain on your reputation, and just like it can affect like you getting services, bank services in the future. You know, it can affect like you getting help from bank services in the future, and it's just not a good idea that I would recommend to anyone, you know, in general. And just to cut the story short, you know, yeah, what happened was after that day, I ended up owing these guys money, and they wouldn't leave me alone until a point where I decided to, you know, cut them off. And I was closer to the guy called Hacks than I was to CW. And Hacks one day tricked me, making me believe that it was all good between me and him. And you know, this was when I was trying to avoid them. After this was a while after I had been trying to avoid them. I was avoiding their calls. I wasn't responding to their texts or nothing. But a while after, I had met Hacks in the street, and like he had told me that he wanted to get with me, and then it was basically a setup, because that same day, you know, later on, a few days later, I think it was the next day, he texted me, and you know, he told me he wanted to come over to my crib. And when he did come over, I thought I was in control of the situation, but they cornered me and they ganged up on me, and the two of them like pulled up on me and started making demands. And you know, they told me that I owed them money, and I had to basically, these guys made me pay them a certain amount of money. They told me that I had to pay them a certain amount of money, which I agreed to in the start. I agreed to paying them that money, but then, you know, I thought like that I would swerve them somehow. But eventually these guys later caught up to me, you know, and basically that's a story for another day what happened. But we had a whole altercation with these guys. They had a whole altercation with me, and basically my life was even put in danger, and I basically had to pay them that amount of money. And all of these, you know, events all stem from like me choosing to do something that I wasn't cut out for, and that's something that I regret doing, because at the time I was a young nigga. I didn't have a lot of life experience. I didn't know how to take care of myself. I didn't know how to like take charge of situations, and that put me in a spot whereby these people like took advantage of me. And up till this day, that's something that I'm at today. And that's basically the whole story about how I used to do fraud, you know, summarized, you know, just a quick summary of what went down. If you have any similar stories, then you can share your experiences in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is another video by Ramadan.